The teachers, on the other hand, are from a different planet, if you may so, because they are not used to technology in the same way as their students are. So that brings a huge generational divide between the two, and that is one of the reasons why technology is not accepted that much. If that divide can be bridged essentially by the way of training, that will help a lot. And training for the faculty is probably one of the main things which everyone, I hope, would focus on in the future, because otherwise technology delivery platforms are not going to work in any kind of institution. Coming to specifically to your point, uh, I think everyone here understands that the government initiatives in technology are not driven by the actual learning outcome. They are driven by a whole lot of other agendas. And a case in point is this whole Akash fiasco. Because I say fiasco because it was done for totally different reasons from what it should have been done. And tablets, interestingly, I mean, I pick up tablets because I know both Vivek and me work specifically with tablets. They are being used for a variety of reasons, but education is probably not one of them. The tablet was considered to be a panacea for education, that okay, once every kid has a tablet, that's it, the education problem solved. That does not happen, and that is not going to happen in India or any part of the world. There needs to be a focus on what is the activities that the students are doing on the tablet. They have to be guided. They have to be told what they can do with the tablet to foster education. Most of the tablets, if you would see, are used for entertainment, and they need to go beyond that. Content is one, but beyond content, how to use the content effectively again becomes a problem. The internet is flooded with free content, but people don't know how to research. They don't know how to look for content, how to analyze it, and how to make it beneficial for themselves. So those are the kind of things I think people need to focus on. The tablets will come from somewhere or the other. I think most of the West is moving towards a concept of bring your own device. You know, they're not giving any kind of device to the student. They expect the student to go and buy whatever the student wants to buy. You know, and because there are so many different things that appeal to different students, they'll pick their own device the way they want to. But what has to be focused on is the kind of education that can be done on any device, and train them properly in usage of that device. The hardware and the content will come, right? It's that connectivity in the middle that has to be bridged.
Thanks, Ankur. Probably a key takeaway for all of us is facilitated learning is what Ankur is stressing on. But given the fact that, you know, with so much content available and the ability of the student to actually search for relevant or sift through information becomes more and more critical for all of us. And the concept of plagiarism also walks into our life. Unfortunately, in India, especially in the colleges right now, we don't have as many software programs to go and track it. But I think down the line it's going to happen. Personalized knowledge management is something what Vivek talked about, Chris also touched upon it, and Ankur has specifically mentioned that it needs to take it further down among all the students. And we have Debrata out here who runs his own enterprise, and he can give us a deep dive of, you know, what exactly they're doing and how does he feel this entire trend of ICT and learning is going to be changing in the future.
Thanks, Lokesh. So I'd like to step back a little bit and kind of tell you a couple of things. One is we sometimes tend to mix up formal education and informal education with respect to technology, and a lot of times we are carried away by what we see working in the West. Let me give you some examples, right? So, you know, when I talk about formal education, I mean, you know, engineering college, degrees, etc., where technology plays a role. And as some of the esteemed panelists said, that, you know, it's an enabler. So the role of technology is to make things more efficient, make things more productive, the role of technology should be to actually see if a learner is able to learn faster or better, more productively, aid in the learning process, the administrative process, the management process, etc. In in case of informal learning, which is where I place things like MOOCs, MOOCs, etc., is where you know people can go and learn at their own pace. What they want to learn, etc. And there is no accreditation, there is no, so if I go to Coursera and do a course on robotics, there's nobody who's going to give me a degree in robotics, and that is not going to be primarily be recognized by AICTE that, hey, I've done a course in robotics with Coursera. Okay. So there is, these two things have to be taken in a different light, and I feel technology has made more of an impact in informal learning, where I, as a student, can go and search and basically try and get the best things that I think are good for my learning. That's more of informal learning for me. So these two are two separate cases: formal and informal learning, and technology plays different roles there. Sometimes a lot of us get confused, and we tend to bucket everything in the same way. Okay? That's number one. I think number two, with respect to trends, etc. So I think there are some very interesting trends in informal learning, right? For example, again, if you look at the online courses that are happening today, in the West, there are colleges which are now giving credits for these online courses. For example, so let me take an example of University of Pennsylvania. They are one of our customers, right? So when a student goes and does an online course with Coursera, University of Pennsylvania recognizes that as something to be given credits for, and that is accounted in in a person's overall list of credits when he passes out of his degree. Right? Something like that for India to happen, I think it will take a long time. Though the Indian government is thinking about how to use NPTEL courses, create a virtual university, and how to use virtual labs, and give credits to people who are trying to do it online. I honestly think I share Chris's view on the fact that we really get carried away by technology, and I feel in formal education human interaction is very, very important. And I really think technology is an enabler which can help make things better, make things more efficient, whether it is managing a classroom, whether it is managing a college, whether it is managing a learner and the learner's outcomes. Technology can make it more effective, but it is very difficult to replace the student and teacher model in terms of a human interaction. Where can we innovate? Let me give you a live example there. One of the colleges that we work with is in Singapore, and very interestingly, they don't conduct any one of their classes in a regular, student and teacher kind of a teacher-centric learning kind of a model. Okay? The entire classroom and all the courses in the degree program are conducted in a student-centric manner, where the teacher is basically acting like a facilitator. The students are given problems to solve, and the students will research the problems before they come to class. They are divided into groups, and they will basically solve the problem into groups. This is typically known as problem-based learning, and there is a peer interaction among students which helps different groups to compete with each other, and they can go to learning outcomes faster. So the point that I'm trying to stress at is possibly over time we have to look at more interesting models of how to make this classroom learning more interesting to students and make it more motivating. Possibly technology can play a good role there, but I don't think we will be able to move away from a regular classroom model of learning when it comes to formal education. And I really think we should not get very carried away by what is happening in the West. It's a different geography. There are different problems that they have. We have different problems. We have completely different problems. For example, in America, the biggest problem in education is student debt. Okay, So the student debt is higher than the mortgage debt in the US, right? So that's a big problem for America. They're looking at completely different problems in education than we are. So we should be very careful in picking up technologies and using it for our own system. That should basically go and solve our problems. That is something that we should be very cognizant of location.
Thank you, Debrother. And I think he again raised two things. One is the difference between formal and informal learning. And he talked about a concept what we may be familiar with in the IT world called flipped classrooms. So typically in a flipped classroom, you get your work, what you're going to learn in an Indian environment. The teacher teaches that concept in the school. You go, do the homework, research it on the net, and come back. Abroad, what we do in the flipped classrooms is, where say I'm talking about photosynthesis, the students would go, do the entire research on photosynthesis, come back, collaborate, the teacher acts as a facilitator. So what you did as homework, now you do as a regular work, and the class is just an interaction mode. So before we open it for questions to the audience, one key point from each of the panelists, I think that would be something good.
Sir, I'll just allow to interject. Before key points come in and the audience is asked to kind of put in feedback. One thought that comes to me, which I would want to put so that the rest of the 15-minute discussion is more lively, is this something which I remember from my FMS days. My marketing professor had told us that whenever you do business or whenever you do marketing, always remember this something which is called as Shoemakers Dilemma. And now that I'm sitting with the learned technology enablers, this Shoemakers Dilemma was that a shoemaker should always ask from time to time to himself or herself that am I making this shoe because I know shoemaking or because somebody would want to wear it, or the entire we all know this by some other model maybe. So this dilemma is that, is there somebody who wants to wear a shoe for some protection or some purpose, and that's why I'm making it the entire customer driven or customer centric model, or am I doing it just because I'm good at doing it or I have capacity of doing it? When I bring that thought here, from a technology enabler's perspective, there are technologies which have done, which if put to classrooms would certainly raise the standards and raise the learnability of a learner. But then, when I think about the problem which is there, the problem from my mind is the technology acceptance. See, this is very clear that I cannot say that technology is growing very fast and my client has issue number 1, 2, 3 and 4. That's why the client is not accepting. Let's get into the marketer's world where the customer is king and client is God. So the customer or the client decides what I want. So given the circumstances where the faculty is what it is today, where the students are what they are today, the organization model and the institute model is what it is today. Given that circumstances, we all know how many technology interventions have been successful. Sir has mentioned about MPTEL, Akash, and many more such examples. Tough experiences are there with us. So, if say I may request you to highlight on few of the experiences, few of the bad experiences that you might have had with technology, or few of the good experiences which you might have had with the technology, or during that process of accepting technology. I think those examples would be very relevant for everyone to understand and learn from there. This was just my thought before I give it to Luke.
So, thanks Ravi for sharing these, and I'll ask each of the panelists to take those into cognizance, and probably when you're giving your one sentence comments, you could dwell on them.
That's why I have a little cold. One sentence, that's a tough one. I think for me, as you probably gathered, my focus is on how can technology support the fundamentals of the learning process. And I think some of the other speakers put some interesting thoughts in my head around pedagogy and teacher and trainer development. I think there was a lot of talk about technology being something that could allow self-enabled learning, but I'm not sure that quite fits with the pedagogical model that exists in India, which is largely a didactic model where students aren't actually given much opportunity to develop the skills needed to do self-directed learning. So I guess the question that I put to the audience is, what do we need to do in terms of developing pedagogy, in terms of developing trainers and teachers, in terms of enabling that profession to make good use of technology, and how can we support that rather than what the specific technological tools are that we can use to promote learning.
Chris, just any specific intervention that you want to talk about? What are you
in terms of what we need to use in City and Guild, I think actually, and again it comes back to what you were saying about services, and I think there's that whole enabling system of like you said, making things work better. And one thing that we've invested in City and Guilds is an e-learning portfolio. And it comes back to what I was saying about pathways that I was talking about. It's an online tool that enables a learner to accumulate evidence of what they've done, accumulate their coursework evidence, whatever exams they've taken, whatever it is, whether it's formal, informal learning, if they've had it accredited with some kind of evidence, they can accumulate it on this platform. And what it does is it helps somebody who's maybe not taking traditional route to put together a package of evidence they can then use to then take to a learning provider if they want to take it to the next level. And I think it also helps people to get an understanding of what they know, because I think, especially if you're not going through this very linear academic route, it's sometimes very hard to realise what you actually have achieved. And so it's helped people to A, understand what they already know, B, articulate a vision for where they might want to go, and then C, take it to a training provider and say that this is me, I'm not from a traditional background, this is what I've got. And I think that, for me, is quite exciting, because that's how technology can really open up education to a much wider range of people, start developing those pathways. And I think that's really important in India. I think that opening up those pathways, opening up education to more people and how technology can do that, that's something that I get quite excited about.
Okay, so I'll talk about faculty development, and one interesting thing that we were talking at another conference is that obviously it's a common thing that faculty is a problem, right? And probably the biggest barrier is scalability. But other way of looking at it, that problem is no different from the problem we face in the corporate sector, right? You ask anybody in the private sector at any level, the common complaint is we don't get enough people, trained people, we don't get enough quality people at the right price. So what do? We train people, right? We train them, we support them with technology, technology that location company makes, and other technology, processes, exposure, and all of that. And I think it's useful to look at the faculty problem through that lens. Right? Because there's no way that problem is going to go away anytime soon. And if we empower the faculty, I think that's going to go. And that's the central piece of work we do training on English and communication skills. And the central piece, and I completely agree that it's not about self-study. I don't think English language or most of the subjects students will go online and study by themselves. Right? It has to be in the classroom, particularly languages. And what we do, all our solutions, we focus on empowering the faculty to deliver a good quality experience, right? And not rely on the student to go online and study.
Thanks. I think I'll sing the same song as Vivek about faculty development, and I think if the faculty is trained properly and gets to the same level of comfort with technology that the students do, then I'm a firm believer in the teachers, and I know that they will find ways of using that technology to deliver the message that they are trying to deliver. If the fixation is on the technology itself, the hardware, the software, we're going to get absolutely nowhere. the fixation has to be on the usage, as to the technology should be purely a tool, and education should happen the way it's been happening, throughout the years. So if technology is used properly just as a tool, and the outcome of that learning is measured, then that is the way forward in successful usage of any kind of technology. So as entrepreneurs, I mean, I would put one thought in your minds that when anyone approaches you to sell any kind of hardware, software, just ask them kind of a difficult question as to what can you expect the student to learn at the end of a session with whatever they're trying to sell. And if they are able to successfully answer that, and you're satisfied with that answer, then that would be a way to purchase any kind of technology that you want. Thanks.
So,
Right. One key comment that I want to make is basically the most fundamental thing in where I see a student faltering today is basically his fundamental knowledge in different areas. A lot of times, I think we want to teach people cloud computing. We want to teach them molecular biology, the best practices, etc. But the fundamentals are not so solid that student is able to kind of go and to do a lot of advanced stuff. So I believe that technology first should aim at helping both teachers and an institution impart fundamental learning outcomes for a student. And I think once the fundamentals are strong, employability comes automatically. I think the panelists in the earlier session also kind of talked about this a little bit. Employability is, I personally feel, is a lot overhyped, and I think if fundamentals are strong for a student, everything else falls in place.
So I think the common theme across is faculty is foremost the most important element or piece which is there. I'll just like to sum it up by saying that we all talk about 1:1 learning, but that one what should be there is ultimately the learner. That's what we need to take care of. So we'll open the floor for questions, and the learned panel out here will try and give you answers on that.
Nitin sir, questions?
I think after the discussion of the panelists, one question I raised is, how do the faculties adopt the new technology? Because until the faculties are developed, whatsoever technology be, it cannot be implemented. Because as we have, you are also telling that the Akash has been distributed and is misused by the students. So of course, they are not using the Akash in the right perspective. Students are not, because maybe reason that faculties have not been able to guide them how to use the Akash. So, main thing which we should put on, that the faculty should be, first of all, should be trained to use the technology.
Sir, I don't mean to make a plug for my company, but we do a lot of teacher training. But at the same time, I would encourage you to look at specific organizations that do teacher training. There are a lot of organizations that focus on teacher training, and I would encourage you to look them up. It should not be very easy to. It should be very easy to find them if you just Google them.
Yeah, I think I would like to give a live example, whatever you talked about. In fact, I am a director at College of Engineering in Pune, and the chairman of the Board of Governors is Dr. F.C. Kohli, and software man actually, who started TCS. And in fact, one big thing which we did, we had faculty shortage, we had all kind of problems. What we did was, and today we talk about MIT Courseware, Coursera, 2010, 11, 12. But way back in 2007, we had a strong interaction with IIT Bombay. And what we did was, IIT Bombay and we, College of Engineering Pune, signed a memorandum of understanding. We sent 17 faculty members of our institute one full semester to IIT Bombay to sit in the classes full time and understand the teaching learning process by experiencing the education that exists there. That was the first starting point for faculty empowerment. Then not leaving it behind, what we did was we had live interactive classes of IIT Bombay given to our students directly in 19 such courses through CD. And what happened in that case is students also learned what is the teaching learning process that exists in a best educational system and how do we replicate that in elsewhere. And if you look at it now, once that is done, we realize that intake at the IIT level was at a different level because of JEE, and the state government institutes, they do it from CET with a different standard syllabus, and they were found wanting in basic sciences curriculum, and therefore some of the courses they were not able to understand. Faculty were able to understand, but not the students. And therefore we had to revise our curriculum to include basic science courses like physics, chemistry, mathematics at an advanced level, make them, come up to that level, so that the prerequisites also are taken care of, and then such courses will be successful. And that's why now what is possible is, now if there is an NPTEL course, it is live, but there is a faculty member from our institute who sits through that, acts as a mentor, helps the students wherever he doesn't understand, and that is the way human intervention is also there, technology is also there. I think this is a live example started in 2007-8.
But I think that's a really good example of what I wanted to say in response to the question, which was that I don't think it's a question of how do we train faculty to use the technology. I think it's how do we improve faculty as a holistic approach that can then enable them to grapple better with technology and to make better use of it. And I think, it comes back to a question of professionalisation of the whole teaching and training profession. When you have a situation where faculty are underpaid, where the position of a teacher and trainer is not given respect in society as much as it could be, where people don't have the tools they need to do their job, then to expect them suddenly to be able to take these technology and use them at the cutting edge is unrealistic. I think there has to be a look at the whole system and issues around professionalisation, around pedagogy. And I think in particular, what I think is the single most effective thing when it comes to faculty development is encouraging a system where faculty look at their own practice critically and see that as part of their job, to look at their own practice, to reflect on it, to report on it, and to improve it. And if you look at the medical profession, this is a very normal thing. It's a part of being a medical practitioner that one actually undertakes self-reflective research about one's own practice, and that builds into a body of knowledge around what it means to be a professional medical practitioner. Now that exists to a far lesser extent in the sphere of education. I think this is something that a lot of people are waking up to now, and I'm not saying this is the only case in India. I think this is true pretty much internationally. And I think if we can look at ways to support faculty to become a self-reflective profession, to improve practice as a whole, then that will enable them to then actually see the potential of technology and to run with it and to develop their own practice on their own initiative. I think that's the only way that we'll actually be able to get to the point where faculty can take these technological possibilities and run with them. And that's what we have to enable them to do.
So I agree with what Chris said, and so it's a longer term solution. In the short term, right, there are 2-3 points I would see. One is, I think we as vendors have looked upon technology providers as faculty being a villain, right? So we've said, oh, technology, I think for too long, and that's changing, and you'll find more. Secondly, I think when we go and interact with people who are buying, the role of faculty, as one of the panelists mentioned, is very limited. The interaction is between the technology vendor and the management, right? I think that probably needs to change. And the third point, I've heard some colleges tell me that if we train our faculty, they will go away or they'll ask for more money. So I think the mindset needs to overall change, and we need to show more leadership and more initiative. And it's not a difficult thing. I mean, this is a thing that can be addressed fairly quickly.
Just something struck me while the other panelists were talking, in that every day you read news or you come across information that such and such school is giving away laptops to the students, tablets to the students. Universities are saying we're going to put everything on tablets. I have not seen a single news item that says that such school is giving technology to the teachers to use regularly before the students.
Just to answer your question, sir, there are several IT companies specifically who have, teacher empowerment interventions, which may be pro bono or on a very nominal charge. So there are companies which offer that. My company is one of them, and we can discuss that offline. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon.
We can hear you, sir.
Very good afternoon to all of you and the panel of experts. The questions that arise in my mind is that how can an education system can be made flexible and more meaningful with the help of technology? And the second question that arises is that can an education system in India should be based on the privatized education system only? These are the questions that arise. Thank you.
So I can try to kind of give my views on the first question. How can technology make education more flexible? So you have to look at technology in different dimensions. Okay. So let's look at few dimensions. One is let's look at it from management, college management, or a institute or a university management point of view, right? So if you are scaling your university up and you're increasing your intake, you have to manage multiple processes with respect to students, with respect to teachers, with respect to admissions, etc. Using technology there helps a lot because everything is then centralized at one place and you can retrieve the information that you want very easily. An analogy to that is earlier you used to book railway tickets by going to a railway counter. Today you can just log into IRCTC or ClearTrip or Yatra, whatever the case may be, and book your tickets, right? So technology then helps you save time and makes your process more effective, as an example from our ERP perspective. Similarly, there are practices in the learning management space. So you have teachers who are making lesson plans, who are giving homework assignments, they are giving course notes, etc. to students, and all of that can be automated on a learning management system. And again, it saves time, increases productivity, and students can basically access these things wherever they are. So things become more flexible. So similarly, there are other dimensions where technology can be used, and the education process in itself, whether it's a management process or the learning process, can be made more flexible and effective.
Thank you. I'll try and look at your second question, if I understood it correctly. First, a little bit of a disclaimer. Our company is largely public funded, so we do a majority of our education on the public side, the public school side, the government school, etc. I don't think it's a private or public option. Technology should be available to each and every person. But then again, I wanted to stress on the point I raised earlier that technology should just be a tool. It should be in the background. It should be transparent. It should not be at the forefront of any kind of decision making. It should just be just like a television. Switch on, it works, and the message is conveyed. We should not again fixate on any kind of hardware, software, all those things.
If training is concerned, how far this is good to say it is only the experience of the teacher or the qualification that is sufficient? I am of the view, of course, this is good to highly qualified teacher, experience with 20 years, 30 years, but at the same time, the teacher is not in a position to deliver the lectures properly. Students are not understanding it. To which other side, I say, as in marketing is an art. An item which can be sold by A, the same item cannot be sold by B, and both have done the same thing. Similarly, in case the teacher is teaching in such a way which is an interesting topic and students are understanding it properly, So out of the two, which you think is a better teaching essay? This is art, of course, along with the qualification and the experience. But merely the experience or the qualification itself is not quite sufficient, according to me.
So I would completely agree with you. Throughout history, I remember my own times, there's always going to be good teachers and bad teachers. And I think qualification has got nothing to do with that. To be able to, I mean, you have knowledge about a certain thing is one thing, but to be able to express yourself and teach that knowledge is a totally other thing. I mean, I would limit this discussion to technology. So the technology can actually play a very important role in the hands of a teacher if the teacher knows how to use that. But the basic fundamental of teaching does not change. I mean, if it is a good teacher, remain a good teacher with or without technology.
This is not working. I mean, I just say again, completely agree. I mean, a single qualification does not set you up. But even a teacher who's good after immediately qualifying, this is coming in and out. I'll just expand it. You know, even a teacher who is good after immediately qualifying, if they're going to be teaching for another 30 years, that qualification is not going to be current for 30 years. So this is why it's really important to invest in continuous professional development for teachers. It's why it's very important to have a quality framework that actually does hold teachers to account. And again, other professions have this, and I think that's just something that needs to be investment in. I think I've pretty much finished what I was going to say. So
I just have one word for that. The word is personalization. If your teacher is able to personalize the lecture, it gels with the students, they like it.
Is not enticing that interest. Ma'am, please.
Good afternoon, present everybody, and happy Basant Panchami also. Sir, I want to ask you, there are mentors from the technology world. Does the curriculum which is being taught is useful to the industries, or the students, they are wasting their time 5 years and is not useful for the industries? Or you people are being concerned while making the curriculums which is to be taught at the technical level, is there such kind of system that people from technology world are taken into consideration when curriculum is being made for the engineers, for budding engineers?
For the panelists of it, I want to make my point. In one word, no. The current curriculum does not fit into what the I don't mean to generalize here. I'm sure there are institutes which are developing curriculum which is absolutely as per the need for the industry, but in most cases it is not. And that is the point I raised earlier during the previous session, is that the industry needs to be involved at the time of curriculum development. And that should not be a one-time thing that once a year the curriculum is shown to the industry saying that, okay, is this okay? It should be an ongoing, constant process for involvement. And what I have seen is that in that particular case, if any kind of industry or even corporate level involvement is there in some kind of higher education institution, it leads to better placements for that. Because that kind of corporate is convinced that, okay, what I want is being delivered at this institute.
So back in the corporate, we use these two terminologies, strategic and tactical. So I like to use both these words here. So for me, when I look at this entire employability thing, there are some tactical items like student must know these specific things, which are things like a curriculum change will offer in terms of what the industry is doing. Then there are some strategic things. For example, fundamental knowledge, problem-solving abilities, etc. These are not tied to specific curriculum items, but these are abilities which a student should develop. And I think the 5 years has to be a combination of both strategic and tactical kind of items in the entire student's life cycle.
I mean, I just say this is exactly what the sector skills councils that are being developed are intended to do. And obviously, the size of India and the complexity of India, it's taking a while for them to reach the capacity to be able to do that job effectively, and they've only just started out. So I just say, I mean, if I would be in this room, I'd be engaging very strongly with the National Skill Development Corporation and with the relevant sector skills council to make sure that they're giving equal consideration to the higher level technical skills as well as the entry level technical skills, which I think is where the emphasis has mostly been put so far.
Yeah, sorry. So yeah, I think that's and one of the speakers I think in the morning mentioned that that the role of the education is to all-round education, and it's not catering, it's not preparing students for a job, right? Industry feels that students need to be prepared for a job. I think that dialogue needs to crystallize, right? What is the role of the institute? What is the role of the industry? And I think sector school councils are a good way how that is happening, and hopefully that will mark a path.
Opinions and thoughts on the technology aspects in driving the education. Now, first things goes, when it comes to impart technology driving the education in terms of student mindset as well as the faculty development, I think the first and the foremost need is the lack of initiative, which is not common in all the faculties. There are a lot of technology programs that can be embedded into the faculties, and they can obviously move on learning that. But as far as I know, being a human, we have all made our needs based on our customers. When it comes to use the Facebook or the Twitter accounts, we have the ready accesses of everything. But when it comes to teach students, we ourselves do not want to belong to the same care of the students. We feel we have got a generation gap. Some of the panelists did mention about these things. But I think first things goes first. We have to come up on such a stage where we have to upgrade our skills. Later on, the technology obviously comes into play. Secondly, we all see a lot of cricket matches, and some of the panelists did mention about giving few examples about. That's it. Let us talk about the example of cricket. Now, obviously, BCCI criticizes the use of the UDR system. All the other countries are using it because they feel that is a disrespect to the umpire standing in the cricketing field. He should be the main decision maker. But obviously, when the technology was not in place, then no one was aware that what is happening. None of the not-out decisions were given outs, and out decisions were given not-outs. But obviously, technology has played a significant role in changing the sports. Having said that, if we are adopting those kind of technologies in sports such as cricket, same thing goes hand in hand. Education also needs to be upgraded in the same form. That is what I wanted to say. Thanks.
Within the company, Digital Academy, so we are enabling digital marketing education within the colleges, and as industry says, the curriculum is too bad for industry to absorb students, so we implicate a course where students can study digital marketing. We all use mobile phones, as Arthur said, that colleges are offering free laptops and iPads. We had a very interesting experience, and I think a lot of us would connect to this. We offer a free laptop and iPad as an admission gimmick and get in people, but we do not allow
Wi-Fi in the colleges, assuming people would misuse Facebook. We want our engineers to be working with Facebook and Google, but we do not let them understand what a Facebook app is, or we do not know what a Twitter account is and how we create it, but we want our students to be admitted or maybe recruited with Twitter and want to flaunt the logo out there. So the curriculum which we are pitching in, right, management colleges do accept it because they are teaching marketing and they want to add another product digital because they understand that's the future. Whereas when it comes down to engineers, we face a problem personally, right? The college director says, Twitter pe jaunga, to main badnaam ho jaunga, right? A student, if goes on Twitter, he might talk negative about my college itself, rather than learning how to use Twitter. So there's a question to all of you. Are you guys really, really interested in technology while teaching technology? Or it's just a word which we are using, higher education and technology, and just teaching the curriculum which has been set by AICTE, and then talk about how to make sure the regulations are not enforced on us? Just a thought which you have to ask to yourself, and then we should proceed ahead. Thank you.
Any reactions from the panel?
Thought that I want to add to this. There would be a difference between using Facebook or Twitter and understanding Facebook or Twitter. So I think there is where obviously usage would not be permitted, but understanding or teaching the technology, there you would have to get into the questions of who would teach them and how quickly are we kind of our trainers or our faculty are getting updated. I think I just want to put this demarcation before there are more suggestions.
Yeah, so I'll just make one quick. See, I think the point of the thing is not to, it's easy to blame everybody else, right, for reasons not happening. Right, there are problems, I'm sure, on both sides, right? And clearly, I think from a technology side, our role is, we must not, I think you mentioned the teachers have to come up to a level before they can use technology. I think as technology providers, I personally want to take up the challenge where a non-technology savvy person should be able to use our products. And secondly, I think from the institute side, love more open leadership, more open discussion, and closer engagement, rather than saying all private, all these private suppliers are bad and they have to make money, that type of thing.
It's not what technology can do, it's what people can do with technology.
I think what Vivek is saying, that we are all available as consultants in case you guys are interested. But just coming back to the topic, living in a fear of technology era is not going to help anyone. And we keep locking up people for Facebook posts and Twitter posts. So if that has to stop, then even the administrators need to open up their eyes that the technology is here. You can't hide from it, right? So it's better to embrace it and understand it rather than just shutting your eyes like a pigeon and thinking that it's not going to affect me if I don't get into it. You're already into it, right? So it's better to embrace it and feel empowered by using that technology rather than just hiding.
That's pretty much exactly what I was going to say, and I think that I think it also applies to workplaces as well. I think there are a lot of workplaces that are just terrified of social media and they don't understand. This is basically how people talk to each other now, and you can't stop you from talking to each other. So much better to free people up, empower people, and explore with them how they can use that to support the business and trust them with it. And I think there's a real need to develop this trust in people's capacity. And I think if we can develop that a bit, then there's so much potential that could you really a whole sort of let a thousand flowers bloom thing, to use a bit of a cliche. And I think that's a change that needs to see happen, and I would like to see technology enabling that. One thing I would just add to what you said though is that there is a difference between social media and technology. And I do think that they are different things and we shouldn't conflate the two.
I did talk about one trend called SMAC. So SMAC is going to be there in 2013.
I think with the permission of the chair, I would request two very august audience, the Vice Chancellors of West Bengal University of Technology and VTU, to have their determining what are their views on the future of learning, technology-enabled learning, because they are the ones who are administering a huge number of colleges that will go. What are their plans of getting their university and their affiliated colleges technology-enabled? Sir.
We started university in 2001 and presently we are 216 colleges. And out of which are 110 engineering colleges. And it's true that we require trained teachers and good teachers, and we want to conduct courses with the industry. Because our university is though it is a state university, but it is not like a private university. So we are talking with Oracle, and we are going the program with the Oracle, and we also have a program with Microsoft with the last year. And so our university is looking in a different way that college should be, the private entrepreneurship, private college should be in a manner they will be in a bigger way in the Indian higher education. Thank you.
Master Mahesh
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm very happy to say Vishweshwara Technological University, Belagavi in Karnataka is one of the largest technological university in the country. We have 3.25 lakh students studying in our engineering colleges. We have 194 engineering colleges in Karnataka. All the engineering colleges are coming under Vishweshwara Technological University. I am very happy to say the technology is used in a bigger way in our university. We have been introducing, I think you must be knowing, video is one of the first technical university using the satellites. EduSat we have used somewhere in 2004, 2005. So we have a studio in Bangalore and all the 194 colleges are connected to this studio, and we invite the technologists, entrepreneurs, CEOs and the educationists to the studio, and we have a live telecast to all the engineering colleges. And this, in fact, helping the rural engineering colleges where there is a shortage of the faculty members. Every day we conduct our regular programs. We have a regular timetable. One semester ahead we announce to all the colleges, starting from the reopening of the colleges till the end of the academic year. We have several live telecast programs of the actual subjects. We have constituted a committee and they identify some of the tough subjects in various disciplines, and we have a complete program. For example, if it is a machine design or a strength of material or any subject, wheelhouse design, the entire content, 48 hours or 50 hours content is telecast every day by some of the experts. So this is really useful to some of the rural engineering college students. And another technology we have used in our examination system, for your kind information, we have an online delivery of question paper. All the colleges, 194 engineering colleges, the question papers are delivered half an hour before the commencement of the examination. It is perfect, transparent, and for the last 2 years we have been doing, we have not found any difficulty in leakage or any of these problems. And we have also introduced the digital evaluation. See, all the question papers are the digitized. In fact, we have scanned almost like a 25 lakh answer scripts scanned, stored in a server. And now, earlier we used to value a subject-wise in different places, like mechanical in Bangalore, the computer science in Mysore, the civil engineering in some places. So teachers used to travel all over the state. And especially the lady faculty members were finding it very difficult to reach the valuation center, leaving their house, with the family, staying in a hotel. In fact, our ladies are not accustomed to that. Now we are going to the doorsteps of the colleges. In fact, we have opened up 15, 20 regional the valuation centers. And no teacher is allowed to travel more than 100 kilometers. So any teacher can walk into any of the valuation center and he can value any of the subject. All the subjects of all the branches are available in the valuation center. And what I need now the valuation center is only the computers. That's all. So the scripts are digitized and it is available in a server. And wherever I can go, even my plan is in the days to come, teachers can sit at home and value. So that is the kind of technology we have introduced in our university. And for your kind information, within 15 days of the completion of the examination, we could announce the result. Otherwise, it would have taken minimum 3 to 4 months. Many of the times earlier we have seen, even before the commencement of the exam, we were not given, you used to give the revaluation result. But now in the last 2 years, we have seen that before the commencement of the classes, the results are out. The students are very happy. Teachers are very happy. So this is what technology can do, help the university system. Thank you.
Sir, it's absolutely amazing to know how technology intervention is helping you. If I may make a small request, you are doing a lot of video telecasts, etc. Can I request that you think about making all of that recorded and available online for everyone to see?
Yes. Yes, in fact, all over the material, in fact, we are also accessing the NPTEL, the study material, along with the courses available on our website. Anybody can access free of cost. They don't have to worry. If they just log on to the video website, all these contents are available. And in fact, we are making this content available in the libraries of all the engineering colleges. Students, if they are unable to attend these classes, they can go to the library, access this information, study on their own. So this is what we have been doing, and it is appreciated by everybody. Thank you, sir.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure, sir.
Please tell me whether answer sheets are digitalized or you do the same exercise?
It is digitalized.
Where?
In a university headquarters.
But the question is whether, because you have different colleges at different places. The question is, suppose if you have 5 lakh or 2 lakh students appearing in the examination, what is the mode of digitalization of the answer sheets?
No, I have a scanner in 4 places: Bangalore, Mysore, Belagavi.
That means the copies have to be shifted to 4.
All the answer scripts I get.
That's what the question is, because you see, the point is, if at the same place wherever the examinations are being conducted, these are the technological limitations. Because
I can scan in the same college. I think we have started with the collecting in one place. And
currently you are being at 4.
Maybe in the days to come I can scan in the same place.
I am from UP, and we are technological way behind.
In fact, we are also taking.
And we must, I think, there is 1 or 2 more participants from Uttar Pradesh. The question is the absorption of the technology, and the question is the abuse of the technology, and how the system supports the technology. This is also very important, because even if digitalization is e-governance is a mandate, but in the absence of e-governance, digitalization is not taking place, then how will you adhere to the concept of e-governance? And Uttar Pradesh is the biggest example where the biggest impediment in the technological absorption is the bound system. The government itself. The government doesn't want any technological upgradation.
Sir, I think universities can take a call. So, university, since the university is autonomous, you can take a call. At least in your university, in my university at least, all the colleges I could scan all the answer scripts, and I can take it to any college now. You know, I have started 15 evaluation center, 20. I can make 100 evaluation center. It doesn't really cost anything. What I need is only 100 or 200 computers in the college, and I know all the engineering colleges computers are available. I think we can, you have to reach the people. I think it is possible.
And the first step, we have moved to Gujarat. I have learned about Karnataka. We will move to Karnataka.
In fact, a lot of universities are using this. In fact, Gujarat Technological University has also visited our campus and they are implementing that. Thank you.
Sir, thank you very much. We appreciate the efforts you have put forward for the upliftment of education system actually. In Gujarat state, in 2007-8, Gujarat Technological University got established, and then after we started, our Honorable Vice Chancellor Dr. Akshay Agrawal, he started utilizing all these technologies available to us as on today, and all the supplementaries and other things using e-governance are being checked, they are being assessed, the result is declared in a very fast mode. Examination also the same system we are adopting. In fact, the papers and Honorable Chief Minister Modi ji, he has always encouraged the education system and their values. So we are following the same system.
Your people have come and say,
we are efficient.
I am there in your advisory committee also.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I am hoping that yes, we are very happy. Any of you can come and see, and definitely we will help you in introducing this technology. Definitely. We are very happy.
If all the entrepreneurs sitting here under this roof might not be running their own universities, there might be colleges who are running under the government, colleges, like engineering colleges being run by the government. So, what do I conclude here is, it's better to convert it into a private university, because there you have your own ideas, and I'm really glad to know that your university is doing such a great job and really commendable. That's very good. And what do I feel that ours is a MIT College of Engineering. It's in Bani, Hamirpur, Himachal Pradesh, doing very good in the field of education, providing good education, like our students, our budding engineers, they are topping the list there. But what do we feel? We are providing funds for the students for R&D also, but that too from our own pocket, because as it was earlier being discussed, that the fee structure which is being given by the government is very less, like 35,000 is a fee structure for a single student. for a budding engineer. So all these lines, so we should think on other lines. That why that.
Fortunately, Karnataka has 10 government engineering colleges, and all government colleges also comes under me. All the engineering colleges, government aided and private colleges are under our university, so we could introduce all these technological innovations in our university. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. It has been really a very interesting and illuminating session. In fact, we have 3 very, very interesting technologies which have a unique place in the classrooms and the institutions. Apart from, I would request